Monday morning arrived with gray skies and steady rain. Detective Rachel Monroe had barely stepped into her office when her phone rang. It was Sarah Watkins from the forensic laboratory. Rachel answered immediately. "Please tell me you've got good news." Sarah's voice sounded tense. "I think we found something." Rachel sat down. "What kind of something?" "The second fingerprint." Rachel's heartbeat quickened. It matched. "Not our suspect." Rachel frowned. "Then who?" There was another print on the passenger side door. Rachel grabbed a pen. "And it belongs to a tow truck driver." Rachel's excitement faded. Daniel Hayes, standing nearby, sighed. "Another dead end?" Sarah continued. "Not exactly." Rachel straightened. The print inside the car, the unknown one, was partial. But while reviewing the images, I discovered another partial print on Lauren Bennett's purse. Rachel held her breath. "And?" Sarah hesitated. "It matches a fingerprint collected during another investigation." Rachel froze. "What investigation?" "A missing person case." Daniel immediately stood up. Rachel's voice dropped. "Which one?" Sarah answered quietly. "Melissa Harper. 2020. Silence filled the office. For several seconds, neither Rachel nor Daniel spoke. Finally, Daniel whispered, "My God." Rachel slowly sat back in her chair. 6 years. 6 years of chasing shadows. And now, for the first time, 2 cases shared physical evidence. Not theories. Not similarities. Evidence. Real evidence. Someone had touched both victims' belongings. Someone who had remained invisible for years. Until now. By noon, Rachel and Daniel had transformed the conference room into a war room. Maps. Photographs. Timelines. 8 victims. And one question. Who? Daniel stared at the board. "We still don't have a name."
"No.
"No face. No vehicle.
No witnesses."
Rachel nodded. "But we have something even better." Daniel raised an eyebrow.
"Hope."
Rachel smiled. "A mistake. Because criminals didn't get caught because they suddenly became stupid. They got caught because eventually everyone made mistakes. Even careful people. Especially careful people." In Willow Creek, Ethan Mercer unlocked Mercer Automotive and began another ordinary day. Customers came and went. Oil changes. Brake repairs. New tires. Normal life. The kind of life he had spent years building. Around lunchtime, Emily Carter stopped by. "Hey, Ethan." He smiled. "Morning. Actually, afternoon." He laughed. "What can I do for you?" My check engine light came on. "I'll take a look." Emily leaned against the counter. "You know, you're probably the busiest guy in town." "Occupational hazard." She smiled. Jacob always joked that Ethan worked too much. Maybe he did. Work gave structure, routine, control. Things Ethan valued. As he inspected Emily's SUV, she noticed something unusual. A deep scratch across his right hand. "Ouch." Ethan glanced down. "Part of the job." "Looks painful." He shrugged. "Comes with fixing cars." Emily nodded. "Nothing unusual. Mechanics got cuts all the time." She thought nothing of it. But later, she would remember that moment and wish she hadn't dismissed it so easily. That evening, Rachel visited Melissa Harper's parents. They lived in a modest house outside Dayton. 6 years had aged them far beyond their years. Melissa's mother greeted Rachel with tired eyes. "Have you found her?" Rachel hesitated.
"No."
Disappointment flashed across the woman's face. "But we've found something." Melissa's father sat forward.
"What?"
Rachel explained carefully. "Physical evidence. Connections.
Hope."
Neither parent spoke for several moments. Then Melissa's mother began crying. Not from sadness. From relief. Because after 6 years, someone still cared. Someone hadn't forgotten. Rachel squeezed her hand. "We're not giving up," the woman whispered. "Thank you." Driving home that night, Rachel couldn't stop thinking about the families. 8 families. 8 lives frozen in time. 8 empty chairs during holidays. Someone had stolen those lives. And someone had escaped justice for 15 years. But not forever. Not if she had anything to say about it. Meanwhile, Ethan Mercer sat alone in his basement. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The shelves stood perfectly arranged. Everything in order. Everything controlled. He stared at the newest box. Lauren Bennett. The name remained written neatly across the label. He frowned. Names. He usually avoided names. Names created attachment. Attachment created emotions. Emotions created mistakes. And mistakes destroyed everything. His thoughts drifted. For the first time in years, memories surfaced. Not pleasant memories. Old memories. Dark memories. Things he never allowed himself to think about. He stood abruptly.
No, he refused.
The past stayed buried. Always. Tuesday morning brought another surprise. Officer Daniel Hayes burst into Rachel's office. "You need to see this." "What happened?" He handed her a file. Rachel's eyes widened. "You're kidding." "Nope." The fingerprint from Melissa Harper's case had originally been collected from a gas station security camera receipt. At the time, investigators had considered it meaningless. An accidental print. Background noise. They had never tested it against future evidence, because there were no future cases. Until now. Rachel looked at Daniel. He was following her. Daniel nodded. "Looks that way." He stopped for gas. "Or coffee." Rachel stared at the receipt. "That means he makes mistakes." Daniel smiled. "And mistakes leave trails." 200 miles away, Ethan Mercer filled his truck with gas. Normal. Routine. Safe. As he returned the pump nozzle, he noticed a police cruiser parked nearby. His eyes lingered on it for only a second. But inside, something tightened. The officer wasn't watching him. Wasn't interested in him. Wasn't even looking his way. Still, Ethan drove away with a strange feeling. An unfamiliar feeling. Fear. Not panic. Not guilt. Fear. Because deep down, instincts whispered what logic refused to accept. Something was wrong. Something had changed. And after 15 years of perfection, perfection was beginning to crack. Back in Columbus, Rachel Monroe stood before the victim map. 8 photographs. 8 smiles. 8 stolen futures. She studied them carefully. Then her eyes stopped. She frowned. "No." Daniel looked up. "What?" Rachel walked closer. "Look at the hair color." He blinked. "Brunette." "All of them." "Coincidence." Rachel shook her head. "Same age range. Same appearance. Same pattern." Daniel slowly realized what she meant. "Our guy has a type." Rachel nodded. "And if he has a type..." She stopped. Daniel finished the sentence. "Then he probably isn't done." The room suddenly felt colder. Because somewhere out there, a predator had been hunting for 15 years. And if Rachel was right, he was already looking for victim number 9. Neither detective realized how close they were getting. And neither realized that for the first time in his carefully controlled life, Ethan Mercer had started looking over his shoulder. By the middle of July, summer had settled over Willow Creek. Children rode bicycles until sunset. Sprinklers soaked freshly cut lawns. Families gathered on porches after dinner, escaping the heat inside their air-conditioned homes. Everything appeared peaceful, normal. But Detective Rachel Monroe had learned something over the years. Evil preferred normal. Because normal made people comfortable. And comfortable people stopped paying attention. Tuesday morning, Rachel sat in front of a giant map while Officer Daniel Hayes entered carrying a fresh stack of reports. "You know," Daniel said, "normal people take vacations." Rachel smiled. "Normal people don't have serial killers." "Fair point." He dropped the files onto her desk. "Cell phone records." Rachel looked up. "Lauren Bennett?" Daniel nodded. "Nothing unusual." "Credit cards?" "Stopped being used after she disappeared." Rachel sighed. "Same pattern. Always the same pattern." Their suspect was disciplined. Careful. He planned. He adapted. He learned. And that made him dangerous. Daniel leaned against the doorway. "Tell me something." "What?" "What scares you most?" Rachel thought for a moment. "That he enjoys being ordinary." Daniel frowned. What do you mean? He doesn't want attention. He doesn't want power. He doesn't want fame. She pointed to the photographs. He wants a normal life. And that's scary because… Rachel stared at the smiling faces on the board. Because normal people don't notice other normal people. Meanwhile, Emily Carter was watering flowers in her front yard when she noticed Ethan Mercer backing his truck into his garage.
Nothing unusual about that.
Except Ethan almost never parked inside. He preferred the driveway. Always had. Emily shrugged and continued gardening. But a few hours later, she noticed something else. The garage door remained closed. All day. And when Ethan finally opened it that evening, she caught a glimpse of him cleaning the truck. Very carefully. Almost obsessively. She smiled to herself. Ethan really loved his vehicles.
Nothing strange about that.
Not yet. That Friday evening, the neighborhood held its annual cookout. String lights decorated backyards. Music played. Children laughed. Ethan stood behind the grill, flipping burgers while joking with neighbors. Best cook in Ohio, Jacob Carter announced. Everyone laughed. Ethan smiled. You're setting expectations too high. Emily watched him. Same smile. Same calm voice. Same friendly personality. Reliable Ethan. Dependable Ethan. Good old Ethan. Across the yard, little Sophie Wilson ran up. Mr. Mercer. He knelt. Hey there. My bike chain broke. Oh no. She frowned. Daddy says you can fix anything. Ethan laughed. Let's not make promises we can't keep. 10 minutes later, the bike worked perfectly. Sophie's father shook his head. You're a lifesaver. Happy to help. Everyone loved Ethan. Everyone. And that was exactly why nobody questioned him. Almost nobody. Later that night, Emily stood in the kitchen washing dishes when she glanced out the window. She froze. Ethan stood in his backyard. Completely still. Not unusual. Except he wasn't looking at the sky. Or his house. Or his dog. He was simply standing there. Motionless. Staring into darkness. Minutes passed. 5.
10.
He never moved. Emily frowned. That's odd. Jacob walked in. What? She pointed.
Ethan.
Jacob laughed. Probably thinking. Standing in the dark? Men are weird. Emily chuckled. Good point. And just like that, she forgot about it. But the image remained buried in the back of her mind. Waiting. Saturday morning brought a breakthrough. Rachel Monroe burst into Daniel's office. I've got it. Daniel nearly spilled his coffee. Please tell me that's enthusiasm and not insanity. She placed 8 photographs side by side. Look.
He studied them.
Brunettes. Similar ages. Similar heights. What am I missing? Rachel grabbed a marker. Careers. Daniel blinked. Careers? Teacher. Accountant. Nurse. Financial consultant. Marketing executive. He frowned. So. Independent women. Daniel slowly understood. Single. Rachel nodded. No children. No criminal records. No high-risk lifestyles. They disappear because nobody expects them to. Daniel whistled softly. Our guy knows exactly what he's doing. He studies them. He chooses them. And he's patient. Daniel looked at the board. Which means he probably studies everyone. Rachel nodded. Exactly. 300 miles away, Ethan Mercer sat inside his office at Mercer Automotive. Business reports lay untouched. His attention remained fixed on the television. Investigators continue searching for connections between several missing women across Ohio. His expression darkened. Connections. That word bothered him. He turned off the television. For 15 years, there had been no connections.
No patterns.
No attention. Just silence. Silence was safe. Silence was necessary. He glanced at his phone. 7 missed calls. Customers. Nothing important. Still, something felt wrong. Very wrong. Sunday afternoon, Emily Carter's dog escaped into Ethan's backyard. Embarrassed, she hurried through the gate. Max. The golden retriever ran toward Ethan's garage. Sorry, she called. No answer.
Max barked.
Emily chased after him. then stopped. The garage door stood halfway open. Inside, Ethan quickly stepped forward. Everything okay? Emily jumped.
Oh, sorry.
Max got loose. Ethan smiled. No problem. His voice remained calm, friendly, normal, but something in his eyes felt different. Not angry, not annoyed, alert, almost nervous. Max ran back to Emily. She laughed. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Then Ethan quietly lowered the garage door. Emily headed home. But halfway across the street, she realized something strange. She hadn't actually seen inside the garage. Not really, because Ethan had stepped between her and the interior, blocking her view. She frowned. Maybe she imagined it. Maybe. That evening, Rachel sat alone in her office studying timelines. Olivia called. Mom.
Eat.
You forgot dinner. Rachel closed her eyes.
I'm sorry.
You promised. I know. Silence. Then Olivia sighed. You're close, aren't you? Rachel looked at the photographs. I think so. How close? She hesitated. Close enough to scare me. Olivia's voice softened. Just be careful. Rachel smiled. Always. But deep down, she knew something. The closer investigators came, the more dangerous killers became. And if their suspect realized someone was approaching the truth, would he run? Would he hide? Or would he fight? Late Sunday night, Ethan Mercer stood in his basement. The room remained perfectly organized. The boxes untouched. Everything exactly where it belonged. Yet he couldn't relax.
He couldn't sleep.
He couldn't silence the feeling. Instinct.
Danger. Change.
Something was wrong. He walked upstairs and looked through the curtains. The neighborhood slept peacefully. Across the street, Emily Carter's porch light glowed softly. Nothing unusual. Nothing threatening. Still, he checked the locks again. Then again. And once more before going to bed. Because after 15 years, for the first time in his life, Ethan Mercer was afraid. And fear made people do things they normally wouldn't. Things they regretted. Things they couldn't undo. Meanwhile, 50 miles away, a young woman named Claire Reynolds parked her car outside a bookstore in Columbus. 28 years old. Single. Brunette. Successful. Living alone. Completely unaware that someone had already noticed her. And somewhere in the darkness, a pair of eyes was watching.